All right.
Let me just
Oh my
finish
gosh, we're
chewing
back.
my cracker.
Okay. For everyone, you were gone for a whole week. For me and Mal, we were gone 3 minutes.
For a pee break and Mallory to eat
Yep. Important stuff.
a chip. Okay, now Fitz is underneath my chair. Also, I
So
realized that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's funny because in the last episode I started by saying my brain was shattered, and then we didn't talk about how my brain was shattered. So you all are gonna be on the edge of your seat for a week before
Such
this.
a tease. No, I was gonna say something similar. Was like last week you heard me blab for maybe too long, and this week we're gonna hear Mallory's story. I'm so excited.
Fitz is being very needy today.
Oh, Fitz, I could use a cuddle.
Can I turn the air off? Yeah. I'm literally sitting on a podcast, Ryan.
Ryan, we're working.
We're working, Ryan.
We're working girls.
I can't turn the air off. I have my earbuds in. I cannot at this time. Okay. So everyone, welcome back to Fuck Wellness. I'm Mallory.
I'm McKenna. Sorry, I realized I didn't mute myself when I was just typing a Slack back to my boss. So
no, that's fine.
Sorry if you heard the clickety clack.
Laura's still not here, still in Amsterdam, but I actually don't know if for this podcast she I don't think physically will be.
I think she will have just returned from Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just returned.
Yeah, last app we heard kind of McKenna's musings. And now it's my turn, I guess.
I guess it is your turn.
I guess. But I think it's going to be collaborative.
Okay.
So where do I even start? My therapist convinced me to get this book, which is called Life Worth Living. And it's based on the most popular class at Yale, which is called Life Worth Living. And it's essentially on answering the question of like, what is the good life? Like, what does it mean to like live a good life?
Oh, I just got chills. I like that question.
Oh, just wait.
Okay.
Fitz, I'm going to need you to chill, buddy. Oh my God.
Fitz wants to live the good life.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, if I put him on my lap, I think he would stop being so emotional. But
yeah, put him up there. Let the world see.
You want to come up? Okay, we're gonna not be in this position though. Okay, I have to be closer to my mic though, dude.
Fitz, where's your dad?
Yeah. Hey, Dad. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
She's a working mom.
I'm a working mom. Yeah, I'm basically, yeah.
You're baby wearing right now.
Exactly. Okay, so Life Worth Living. Yeah, based on this class written by the 3 teachers that teach it. That was just Fitz smelling the mic. Yeah, so anyway, I was like 100th on the wait list for this book at the library.
Oh my God, really? I need to get on right now.
Yeah, how popular it is. Finally got it. And it has already changed my life, and I'm like 70 pages in.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Ken, have I told you anything about this yet?
No.
Okay. Oh my God. I'm like, where do I
I'm like
start?
fighting the urge to figure out how to sign up for a library card in San Francisco right now.
Yeah. I think I honestly might buy myself a copy so that I can like annotate it.
I felt that way about No Bad Parts.
Oh, I annotated all of No Bad Parts.
Yeah, I listened to it.
Yeah. Okay. So basically the underlying premise to Life Worth Living is that we so often exist in autopilot, which is just, the mode of existing where we're not doing a lot of reflection. We're just kind of existing. And they say there's nothing wrong with that for the most part. Like for a lot of our lives, we are going to be on autopilot. We just want to make sure autopilot is going in a direction that we kind of want to go. So that's like the most basic level. And then the next level down is what they call the effectiveness level, which is where we are Like we're in most of the time in autopilot and we occasionally dip down to effectiveness. And questions that you might ask in effectiveness would be like, am I making good use of my time? How can I be more productive? Am I, effectively using my resources?
So are these like things that we kind of go between, like we kind of, modulate, I guess, between these stages? Okay.
Yeah. And so for most people, their whole lives are going to be on autopilot and effectiveness. So they're on autopilot. They're like, something doesn't feel right. They go to effectiveness. They think, how would I like to spend my time differently? And then go back to autopilot. But the problem with that is that you're not necessarily charting a course in those levels. You may be like tinkering, but you don't see the big picture. It's much more like small picture. And the third level is called self-awareness, which is another layer down. Let me see if I can pull up the question for that. Which is envisioning a good life. Like, what do we actually want in this life? What would make it meaningful? Kind of more big picture goal setting. And they say most people, if they get to self-awareness, awesome, great. Like, that's amazing. But they're challenging everyone who reads this book to get to the final level, which is self-transcendence. And the question there is what I want worth wanting?
Whoa.
Yeah. So like, another way to like kind of think about it is that self-awareness level is like envisioning the good life, and self-transcendence is the validity of the good life you envisioned. So like, for example, I'll use Ryan as the example. When he was in high school, he imagined himself being in finance and being successful in banking, whatever. And to him, that was still self-awareness. He was saying, okay, I want to do this thing. But maybe if he had gone down one more level to self-transcendence, he would have been like, well, where is this coming from? Like, is this career path worth wanting at the end of the day? And most people, like, that's a lot of deep thought. Like, even for me, that did shatter my brain. So, that is sort of like the underlying premise.
And wait, so then what would the final layer of that example, of Ryan's example, be? Oh, is it what was it?
Is it worth wanting? Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking about it the other day, and it would be like, where did him wanting to go into finance come from? Is that a deeply held belief? Is that career like worth wanting at the end of the day? And who decides? Like, one of the big things in the book is, who are we responsible to? So at the end of our life, who gets to decide that our life was worth wanting? Right? I mean, isn't that insane? Like, one of the things I wrote down was, who assesses for me at the end of my life if my life was worth living? And
oh my God.
And I feel like that has been just on my mind. So can you see why my brain has been shattered?
I was just gonna say, I get it. And I've only heard about it for the last 3 minutes.
Yeah. And I swear I've literally given you, I have 5 pages of notes, and I have given you maybe 3 lines.
Oh my gosh.
Of that entire
when
thing.
you first started talking, and this is like, might not be a parallel that fits here, but I've been learning about the autonomic nervous system, and it kind of similarly works in these stages that are a little bit like primal, like dorsal. It's like dorsal something, dorsal parasympathetic, and then vagal, I think. But it's kind of like we put all of these other theoretical ideas into somewhat of a system like that is our basic biology. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you can apply them to your mind and thought experiments, but I don't have a direct correlation. I just find that kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense because with almost everything, there's the most superficial layer, like even with skin, like with everything in our body, there's that superficial layer.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Tell me more.
Okay. So basically first of all, I just want to say, I'm going to explain some of this, but like, I'm not doing it justice. Like, I need you to actually read the book
Mhm.
because I'm pitching it right now, but it's important that you actually take the next step and get it from your
Yeah,
library.
I think I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah. So basically the first drill in the book is to like take stock of your current life. So things like, what does your daily schedule look like? What is your spiritual practice? What are your largest regular expenses? What's the first thing you like listen to, read, or consider in the morning? What events appear weekly, monthly, yearly? Whose voices and opinions are most present for you? What's the last thing you do before bed? What are your greatest hopes for yourself? What are your biggest fears? What are your sources of peace, etc.
Mhm.
So basically you just do a giant like inventory of all of those things.
And did you
Um
do this?
mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
I won't go to, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
you need to
no,
hear
you
that
know.
much about all of those things, but one thing that really stuck out to me is one of the question is like, what are some things you regret? And I couldn't really think of any.
Mhm.
And I was talking to my therapist about this today in our session, and I was like, I'm curious if the reason I don't have many regrets is because I sort of view regret as unproductive in that everything I've done in my life has taught me something. So
Mhm.
what's the point in me like regretting it if it taught me something? Like I wrote
There's
down
nothing that was ever like a full loss.
no, and I don't, maybe I'll feel differently.
Yeah.
Like things could definitely happen in my life where I
Mhm.
do feel a regret. But like I wrote down dating many subpar men, and my therapist joked, "Well, they taught you what par is."
True.
And it's true. So, that one was really interesting for me. And then Ryan laughed because one of my greatest fears was mass hate towards me. And and he was like, "Wow, that's like really meta." But I was like, "It's true." Like mass hate and rejection towards me is like definitely one of my biggest
We
fears.
see that every single day. I think that's
Yeah.
a really rational fear.
Thank you. I definitely agree. Basically, so the next step was pretend that you're not yourself
Oh god,
and
okay.
look back at all of those. How would you describe that person? Like,
I don't know if I'm stable enough for this, I'm gonna be honest.
so it was supposed to be like your prompt was above all, they were blank. So you were supposed
Mhm.
to say, like, looking at all of these things I've read about this person, above all, they were blank.
Mhm.
Um, and so for myself, like it's first of all, it's very hard to be objective. Like we are just biased about ourselves. So I would be curious about giving this to a stranger and be like
Mhm.
see what they would think. But I put above all, they were conscientious, like they being me, present, adventurous, and productive. And I put productive in
Mhm.
quotes because
Okay.
feel like a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Okay. One page done. Okay, first of all, I'm about to say this line and I feel like you have to read the book, but I don't know why. It's just like hurting my brain. Okay, I'm just going to say it and it's not
Okay.
probably going to
I'm
make
gonna
any
close
sense
my
to
eyes for
anyone.
this.
Okay. We live the answers to questions we couldn't even verbalize.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah, like we are constantly answering questions by the choices we make, and we didn't even
Mhm.
know there was there was a question, but
Mhm.
that we're answering it anyway.
Mhm.
And I think
Mhm.
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe another way of saying that would be like we are living our lives kind of for like needs we needed met that we didn't know we needed.
mhm,
We couldn't
yeah,
verbalize. We knew we needed it. We couldn't verbalize it.
yeah. And I mean, the reality is that we're living every day. It's like even we can sit in reflection for so long, but we're still making choices every day.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, One of the effectiveness questions things I find really interesting is a lot of times we're like, how can we get more out of life? But maybe that's the wrong question. And instead, we should be asking, like, more of what? Like, what are we saying when we say we want more out of life?
Mm.
Um, yeah, let's see. Yeah, just again, that like validity question of like, is the life you are after worth pursuing? Um,
Yeah.
which I think is good. Let's see if I have anything else. Okay, then they had you write down people you admire and why you admire them, and
Mhm.
then people you envy, and then why you envy them. And interestingly, for the people I admire, most of the things I wrote about them were character, courage, like character, courage, and then their like authenticity or like their
Mhm.
ability to be intentional.
Yeah.
And then for envy, it was all fortune. Like it was
Mm.
all like I'm jealous of.
Material resources.
Yes, and I thought
Yeah.
that was really, really interesting. Um, yeah, one of the main like concepts in the book is debunking the belief that everyone has to want a long, healthy, and happy life, and
Oh
how there's
god.
there's so much more to that.
Mhm.
And I think you'll relate to that in the sense of like seeking out happiness is not necessarily the like solution to having a meaningful life. And
Right.
I wrote, let me see if I can find oh, right here. Okay. This is really gonna get
Oh
you.
god. I can't
Um,
take much more, Mallory.
yeah, I'm almost done. Last paragraph. So they keep saying over and over again, like, is happiness really like what we should be seeking? And so then I was thinking about my Substack title, which is A Joyful Life. And
Mhm.
I was thinking so much about how to me that title means so much more than just seeking happiness in
Oh,
life.
yeah.
And so I wrote, is a joyful life all about joy? No, a joyful life has pain, suffering, and sorrow because those emotions are part of the human experience. And being a human has immense joy and lessons. I think about this in relation to relatability. If we were only happy, how could we connect with others? Isn't sharing our pain part of the joy of being human? And I've been really thinking about that because some of the like most joyful and meaningful moments in my life have not necessarily been happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm only 70 pages in, but those are all my reflections for now.
Wow. No, I fully fully understand why your brain is breaking, and I think that I do need to read this, especially in a time of change, because these are just important questions to consider, and I think I don't know how you feel about where you are at with your life, because I feel like you and I and Laura and, like, we always as friends, we're checking in on, like, "Okay, what are your kind of next steps, next plans?" And I personally right now feel like I I know what I want and that it has nothing I need to figure out how to say this without like no, actually, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I know what I'm craving right now, and it is not a career. And it is not work. It is like community. It is motherhood. It is like partnership and companionship. That I feel like is what my need right now is the most. But it's like, that's such a weird thing in the normal world to be like, this is what I'm craving. And you know what? I'm sorry I don't have my 5-year plan for you because if I had it my way, that would be my 5-year plan. But that's not an acceptable answer.
I think that the people in the book, though, would say exactly what you're saying is you're asking the self transcendence question because I think most people would, under like self awareness or effectiveness, would say, okay, career, like, here's my 5-year plan for my career,
Mhm.
instead of thinking, is this the good life for me? Like, is this
Yeah.
worth pursuing? Is this a good use of my time?
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this a lot of, there's the balance of obviously you need financial means to exist in this world. So
Mhm.
there's some reality in there, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
Oh, and I know you have a lot of questions, maybe more so than previous years of like, where am I going to live in 2 years? What is my job going to look like? And what is Ryan's job going to look like in 2 years? Having conversations about kids, like all of that. You're gearing up for big changes too. So I think it's important that you're having those thoughts as well.
Yeah. I feel like I've been pretty content like doing these exercises and feeling like, okay, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of like dissonance
Mhm.
between what I'm writing and what I'm feeling. Like I do feel like for the most part, I'm like living my values and living in a way that feels good for me. I think the whole like long, happy, healthy myth definitely fucked me up a lot, where I was like, how, like, even the blue zones, like thinking about living long, like I do want to live a long life ideally, but that they really got me thinking, like, is that all there is? Is just like trying to extend our life,
Oh God.
you know?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. And, two of the people I wrote down that I admire are like world-class climbers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold, I think he does want to live a long life, but his actions aren't necessarily doing things that would,
Yeah.
like, he is prioritizing his love of adventure over living a long, healthy, and happy life. And to
Mm-hmm.
him, that is, he is answering the, is this worth wanting?
Also, is that his definition of a long, healthy, happy life?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so juicy, Mel. I'm gonna like my brain is gonna chew on this for so long because even thinking about my circumstances, it's like I've been making jokes the past 3 months of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Jokes, jokes, jokes. I'm a mess. Like, whatever. I like really don't actually think that. Like, I don't feel that way. And it's kind of been this like separation of like, oh, this is my brain that's going to make these jokes to external people because that's what feels like it'll make them understand what I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
But like, what I'm going through these past few months is good. Like, it is really groundbreaking. Like, let's figure out stuff. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is my brain being shattered. The other thing I was going to just add is I did just finish No Bad Parts, and I do feel like they're very connected in a lot of ways. So I am glad I kind of am reading them somewhat in tandem. And my mom and I did a fun, like, we went on a hike and we kind of dug into our most recent situations that like triggered a lot of emotion. And we kind of like dug into the trailheads.
Oh my God.
And
Wait,
it
does
was,
Jean know about No Bad Parts or
I
just you were?
explained it to her.
Okay.
Yeah. But we were kind of digging into like, we have like mother, like daughter, we have somewhat similar, parts. And I think a lot of my parts are inherited from her, and in good and bad ways.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just feel like No Bad Parts, the book, it it gives you so much more humanity for heightened emotions, aka like when I feel a lot of heightened emotions, instead of like being like, Mallory, stop. It's like, ooh, I get to dig into this now. Like, why did I have that reaction?
Yeah.
So it's almost, yeah, it's not fun. Fun is definitely the wrong
No.
word, but I don't know. It's like, oh, like I always like to use the example of like we all are these little labs, and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna tinker with this, and okay, I'm curious why that potion exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think it's
like also to
interesting.
think about it like when you maybe are not as comfortable, I guess, exploring some of these parts, or when you're just starting this journey. I also think that's just kind of a natural thing. Like, I don't think that we should have 16-year-olds who are like, I think tools are important, but they're not going to have a mastery of their parts. I think that's something that comes with experience. And it's like, we have to experience that human event. So I think sometimes we look at healing in a way of like this linear, and people always say healing isn't linear, but truly, like, it's not, I conquer this step, I go to the next step. It's like you're in a room with a bunch of stuff and like everyone's room is different and there's no perfect way. But for me, with parts work, it's like it turned it from event, immediate reaction to event, pause, reaction.
Yes.
And then you can return to that pause and be like, interesting. I had a little more space either before or after my reaction to get curious.
Yeah. I'm still in event, react, pause.
No, I think that's really normal. And there are so many layers, right? We've both met people who can be in event, reaction, analytical, intellectual, right? Pause. That's helpful on some level. And with this whole thing, not to just like take over, because this is like my the thing that I'm like most passionate about. But like, I think I used to be so judgmental about how people are doing things and instead be like, I'm noticing that you're doing things and that just unfortunately doesn't work with me. Like you can do that all you want. I have to remove myself from that situation because it doesn't work with my particular system. I have to go deeper.
Yep. Two thoughts that I have from that. The first is, I mean, the healing isn't linear. It's just so important. And this is like kind of vulnerable and weird to say, but when I was thinking about regrets, I know when my parents die, I will have regrets. I know for sure. I know that there will be things that I wish I had done. And it's weird, like predicting that, but like, I know I will.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's a way that you can have your parents die or really like close loved ones and not have any sort of regret associated with it.
I'd be curious though, like, I don't know, when, hopefully in a very, very long time when you experience that, if you would define it as a regret or maybe another word you might assign to it.
We'll find out. Yeah, I don't know. And again, I think a lot of that is more, it's because I think about my parents' death so often, it's also easy to come up with regrets. For it in advance, like prior regret.
No. This is like we can talk about this later because I know we have to go soon, but this is something that my therapist and I have been talking a lot about, and it's actually like a very normal thing.
Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to say?
Yeah, you had a second thought.
Oh, yes. The concept of tormentors in the book. So I'm going to just spell it out for people. TOR-mentors. And it's the concept that there are people in our lives, both like people we're close to and also strangers, that can bring a lot of this emotion up because of how they get us to react. And I sometimes Ryan is a tormentor for me, and that isn't a bad thing. It just means he'll bring up a reaction in me that is some part reacting.
And so many times our relationship partners are the ones that are triggering a lot of that.
Yeah.
They're like really intimate.
Like I remember I met this woman who was a friend of a friend, and I had a big reaction to her. Like I got home and I was like, I do not like her at all. I get bad vibes. Like, and there was part of me that was like, what part of this reaction is genuine? Like, I just don't really want to be close to this person. And what part is like, maybe she's like bringing up some stuff in me that I'm like not totally thrilled with. So that was a really interesting situation where when I actually got to know her better, I was like, oh no, I think I was just insecure. Like she brought out a lot of insecurities. Now, do I ever think I'm going to be best friends with this person? No, absolutely not. But I do feel like it highlighted to me that a lot of my initial like first impressions of her were based on like my own insecurities, not things that she was doing. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when you get on that journey where you're not centering, or maybe you're kind of recentering yourself in an appropriate way in most of your reactions, sometimes I think there's a grieving process of like, oh, I miss just being able to like blindly be like, fuck that person, like that there's a component to that sometimes is sad to miss. Like you have so much knowledge and empathy and awareness that everything is not so simple in that way. And it makes it hard to sometimes be around people who might not think the same way because you might be extending empathy that's not being extended to you. Sometimes in relationships, it's hard because you can like see the love in someone else and know it's there, but not be shown that, like there's just so many layers. And sometimes it's not as like sexy to be like, I really am like processing this and I understand it. And it'd be easier to be like, I hate that girl, But even when you start that process, like I've been hearing myself say statements like that, and it feels heavy in my body to say like, I hate someone, or those things, whereas in the past it didn't feel good, and I never would purposely say it I would never say that about someone, but now saying it, it's like there's never a situation where we should really be speaking about someone like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't know why I chose to eat a chip right then. But then, I totally agree. And I feel like I'm right where you are. But then are you ever in social settings where you're like, I want to fit in, and by shitting on this person, I will fit in better? Yeah. I feel like I'm in those situations a lot. And it's not like those people are like so mean, but enough that like past the point where it feels comfortable. Mm-hmm. And you have to make that split second decision of, do I want to join in, or am I okay not being a part of that? And I think, a moral person here would say, oh, you always are out. It's not that easy. It is not that easy to choose character every single time.
No.
So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes that's on my mind too.
No, Mal, I've thought about this at length, and I've never verbalized how I feel about it, but I think that part of it is you find people who are able to understand how you act in the world and understand like you as a person, your heart, yourself, your parts. And in those spaces, I think it's sometimes okay to kind of giggle about things that might not be appropriate if someone like walked in on you saying them in the normal world. For example, like you, me, and Laura may be giggling at something. It is never malicious. Like, and we never are saying inappropriate things about someone, I think. But there are moments where we can take something and be like, that was really a really silly interaction that barista just did with us, that when we kind of like are giggly about it. I think that's normal, but in safe spaces and in spaces where we feel comfortable with each other, to, if any of us ever crossed a line into a disrespectful territory, we would be like, too far,
I just think those interactions are part of being a humans. Yeah. Like I'm like, yes, strength of character, moral, whatever. But like, I also think those moments are important to friendships and life is going to go on. I need to go though.
Yeah, you do need to go. Okay. Well, I think we're going to have more to talk about when you read a little bit more.
Yeah. Also, sorry everyone for fucking you up. I hope that you are okay after this.
It's like 2 weeks in a row where it's like, go take a bath.
Yeah. Go take a lap. I'm sorry. Okay, everyone. Thank you for listening. And Laura will be back next week.
Hopefully.
Maybe she'll do a solo pod.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah, we'll hear about her adventures. Okay. Love you.
Bye.